So I've been thinking about this phrase a lot lately. I am not a gamer. It's something I hear a lot, and I'm sure that you've heard it too. Most recently, I heard it on a Zoom call with a coworker. I had shared my top 5 games of 2020 video in our work Slack and had mentioned that I run a YouTube channel talking about tech and gaming and the policy and culture around those things. And she had watched that video and she had told me that she enjoyed it, even though she wasn't a gamer and didn't play video games. And me, being my gatekeeping is why can't we be friends? Every video game is valid as self, said, really? You don't play anything? Not even on your phone? And that's when I found out that she was a couple of thousand levels into Toon Blast, this mobile game that I also am pretty far in. Y'all, I'm 3,207 levels into Toon Blast. I'm actually farther now, but at the time, that's where I was at. And that's what we talked about for the next 20 minutes, was Toon Blast and other mobile games and those kind of mobile game fads. Before watching that video, I can only assume that my coworker looked at my YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to right now if you're enjoying this video, and thought that I was some Red Bull chugging, Cherry MX blue clacking, and RGB slinging gamer guy. And like, no shade if those are things that you like, and I obviously like parts of tech and gaming culture as well, obviously, but oftentimes, those are just intimidation icing on top of a cake made of gatekeeping. They can often be the things that keep people from an entire medium full of things that they might enjoy. And that's my goal here today. I just want to help people have a little bit more fun. I want to help people find the next thing that they can enjoy. So stick with me and we're going to try and get there. All right, so this copy pasta has been going around for I don't know how long. It's been on Reddit for at least since 2019, but it feels of the internet in a way that some things just do. I know it can really only be a few years old because of some of the references that it makes, but for some reason it feels older to me. Now, I don't know if it's genuine or if it was made by someone just memeing to meme. I did only find it on copypasta subreddits and Facebook groups and YouTube videos, but it is a nice survey of patterns of that toxic gamer gatekeeper kind of person. You've got defining what is and isn't a real game. You have arbitrary time-based qualification and disqualification. You have straight-up misogyny. You also have a nice bucket of games that are seen as casual being completely tossed out. You've got things for kids not being taken seriously. You have an assumption that challenge and skill is what makes a game good. And you have weird brand loyalty with this PS4 comment here. It's all there. Well, except for that weird brand of white nationalism that seems to be popular in these circles these days. Honestly, if it's genuine, it's probably just by chance that didn't make it in here. And the fact that I can sit here and be like, yep, that's normal. That is something I recognize. That is a man that I know. It makes complete sense why when these are the people calling themselves gamers, why people wouldn't want to identify with that name. It's so perfectly valid that it's obvious. It's a choice that requires zero action. Do not identify as gamer. Check. Done. Great. Now people won't associate me with gators or that dude that had a Dishonored tattoo of the Capitol riots. Hell, for me personally, I don't like being associated with the entitled gamers who demand features of game studios or send death threats when a studio focuses on one project over another. That shit boils my blood. Why would I take on their label? I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and they said that the word gamer really is wrapped up in this false belief by some angry men that the entire medium of video games belongs to them. And I don't disagree with that at all. It's definitely the root of the gross thing that we're pointing out here. It's not something that's unique to video games. That false sense of ownership definitely exists in other types of media, especially in those that have strong fandoms. You can look at the industry of The Last Jedi video essays here on YouTube to prove that point. But the identity of gamer exists in a way that's just so distinct from that of viewer or reader or movie buff or what have you. But I don't want to spend any more time talking about these capital G gamers, as my friend Ashley Versus calls them, because I came here to help people recognize, enjoy, and deepen a hobby that is wide open to them. So y'all, why are we out here pretending we don't play video games? Well, I know one of the reasons, and it has to do with what we think a video game is. And y'all, I am here to tell you that a mobile game, no matter how sleazy the loot box or energy mechanics are, is a video game. If you are playing Toon Blast like my coworker and I are, then you are playing a video game. I know it's not like revolutionary in 2021 to be like, boy, some mobile games are good. I mean, like, we all know about Among Us and Genshin Impact. And did you know that an Apple Arcade game was a PS5 launch title too? So that's not my take, but my real take is like lukewarm at its hottest, and that's just that any mobile game is a video game. In fact, any game that you play on your phone or on Facebook or in a browser, rip Flash, is a video game. So if you found an HTML5 implementation of LineWriter that you play when you're bored in Zoom meetings, then congrats, you play video games. Y'all, my aunt was the person that introduced me to Pilot Wings and Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo in her 20s. These days, she doesn't play video games, but she does play Heyday, one of these mobile farm games, on her iPad. And she is fully in like a neighborhood, that game's version of a clan, running that game's version of a raid, and in their Discord. She's one of this game's like top players, and they've got inter-neighborhood drama. Like, she does more gamer type stuff than I've ever done. I never really made the leap to like online multiplayer gaming. If you've ever watched any of my Destiny content on this channel, you'll notice that I'm almost never playing with someone else. It's just never been something I've been into. Like, my aunt is in some ways more into video games than I am. Now look, I don't think it necessarily matters what you call the thing that you're doing. I just see a lot of opportunity for people to have a lot more fun if they could just step up onto the sidewalk over the curb that's painted, "I don't play video games." But some folks are perfectly happy with what they've got, and I'm not trying to change them. So if you are perfectly fine with your copy of Civ 3 that you bought in 2001, and you've never played anything else in your life, I am not trying to change your mind. But if you're hearing this and you're thinking, you know what? I really would like to play more things that make me feel the way that Animal Crossing makes me feel, then my friend, there is a whole world of games out there for you. Also, for that specific request, most people are going to recommend a game called Stardew Valley, and I've never played it, but I hear that it's really great. A pattern I've noticed is that there are a lot of people who have taken a break between childhood and adulthood playing video games, or only recently got into video games as a hobby, but always had kind of a passing interest. And more often than not, these people are not men. Maybe they grew up with a brother and they would watch over his shoulder as he played. Or maybe they were introduced to video games in an educational setting through educational specific games or through like Oregon Trail. These are often seen as largely positive experiences and thought of fondly. They're just often never followed up on. It shouldn't come as a surprise that gaming is still a super male-dominated hobby and even career path for some, despite the millions of women and non-binary folks who have found a place for themselves in that space. I don't want to erase those folks. The way that culture understands gender is different for Gen Z and the folks that come after them, but when I was growing up, video games were still seen as mostly a boys' hobby. And I'm sure the folks that were discouraged by those assumptions have found other hobbies and had fulfilling lives, but I just wonder how things might have gone if those assumptions hadn't been there. And not that like career goals are like the ultimate good or anything like that, but we know that a common path towards engineering and other careers for men is an interest in video games. How many people missed out on that kind of opportunity because of our gendered thinking about video games? Hell, how many people just missed out playing Assassin's Creed Brotherhood in 2010? Anyway, I brought this up with a few people, and they mentioned that it may not be just the word gamer that is seen as off-putting. It may be that playing video games is still not as dignified of a hobby as like watching movies or reading books. And look, I don't buy this one. I think that if anyone's hiding their video game hobby out of shame, there are few of those people. Especially after the 2020 that we just had, where video games leapt into the mainstream culture in a way that we've never seen before. The number of people that would even be judging you for this kind of thing are so few now. Sure, there was that New York Times piece last week about that troubled kid whose trouble was playing video games during a pandemic. But honestly, I think that's just some ridiculous parents and the New York Times doing what the New York Times does. I think the rest of the world thinks are video games art is a naive question, and that version of the New York Times that published that piece just hasn't even thought to ask it yet. But in 2020, how many times did video games become a thing we did or talked about with people who'd never touched a video game in their lives? I mean, Animal Crossing, Fall Guys, Among Us, they all had moments that transcended gamer culture last year. I mean, Timmy and Tommy are as much in the culture as Benoit Blanc. I mean, the Among Us crewmates, they're as much in the culture as the Minions are. I'd much prefer them anyway. So if you're not playing video games because it's shameful in some way, here, I absolve you of that shame. I spent a lot of time rambling about why people feel that they can't admit that they play video games, but I've not actually talked about what should change. So here are a few things that I think that would make this hobby more fun for everyone. We've got to stop talking about what is a real game and what isn't. There are levels of difficulty and levels of commitment, but the gatekeeping inherent in defining what is not a game is keeping people from having the fun that they could have. It should go without saying, but the misogyny and the Nazi shit have got to go. When the first image that people can conjure up is an angry streamer saying the N-word or liking white supremacist tweets, my friend, you are not going to attract new people to your fun hobby. Third, game design just straight up has to get better at balancing the needs of new players and more experienced players. This is harder in online play, and like I said, I'm not much of an online games player, so you're going to have to find another place to talk about matchmaking. I know that that is one of the hardest places. I just don't know a lot about it. However, in offline play, I think Hades did an incredible job balancing the needs of new players and really experienced players. That's a game that ramps up difficulty if you are capable of it, but also makes it really approachable if you don't have that experience yet. On the flip side, we have got to stop exclusively recommending certain games to women or other folks who want to explore games for the first time just because we think those video games are easy or more approachable. I've had several friends pick up the Nintendo Switch recently, and while Mario Kart and Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, Mario Odyssey, these are all really good games for people who are brand new to video games. I had a friend pick up The Witcher 3 because they had a really strong personal attachment to that game and wanted to try it out, and they've been loving it. Ask questions, get to know what the person wants to play, figure out what they want to try out, and give good personal recommendations. And speaking of recommendations, what do you want to play? What are you playing right now? What have you played that you liked? What are you looking for? Tell me in the comments below, and I'll do my best and try and give a recommendation if I can. Because the point of all of this whole thing, this entire video, is for you to have more fun. I want to unlock this entire medium for you and for anyone else that you think might enjoy video games. Because yeah, I'm not a gamer, but I play video games, and I bet you do too. Like the video to help it reach more people, leave a comment below to get a recommendation, and subscribe to see the next one. I'll see y'all next time.